Hi, and welcome back to Your Autism Game Plan. I'm Joya Vanderlaan, a family nurse practitioner, a functional medicine specialist, and an autism mom. This week we're going to be talking about gluteomorphins. It's a big word, and I'm hoping I'll be able to simplify it for you by telling you a little bit about what they are. Gluteomorphins are a byproduct of gliadin or gluten digestion in our bodies. When I think of gluteomorphins, I somehow conjure up these images of these bad guys that are totally wreaking havoc in our digestive systems and in our kids' digestive systems. So I think of them as bad guys. Let's talk about why gluteomorphins are problematic. When we digest gluten, or the protein gliadin in wheat products, they're broken down, these gluteomorphins are produced, and the gluteomorphins actually attach to opioid receptors in our brains, in our kids' brains. Now, what that does is activate an opioid-like response. Now, what does it feel like? Well, there's this euphoria, this intense happiness. If you feel that euphoria, you're going to have this sort of positive reinforcement to do that again, which is one reason why gluten can be so addictive for our kids, or these gluteomorphins can become so addictive for our kids. When you're addicted to something, there can also be withdrawals from those things. If we think about this in terms of our kids and understand that they have been eating these gluteomorphins in gluten foods for so long, their bodies probably are addicted to that opioid response, that endogenous opioid response, or the opioids that come from within. Now, when we take our kids off gluten, what does that look like? They get crabby, their behaviors get worse, right? All these things because they're withdrawing from gluten. If we know this, then we can understand that the best thing for them is not to give in and say, okay, fine, have the gluten. The best thing for them is to help them get through that period of withdrawal from gluten, and knowing that that is the best thing for them, even though they're struggling right now. I would liken it to a drug addict, right? A drug addict is going to have withdrawal symptoms when they are taken off of opioids or benzodiazepines, whatever the case may be. The best thing for them is not necessarily to say, oh, this is hard, so let's just give you those things to which you're addicted. The best thing for them long term is to say, I know this is hard right now, but really for the long-term benefit, this is the best choice for you. Gluteomorphins can also cause a host of other problems, specifically within the digestive tract. What can happen is this inflammation leads to leaky gut, which can lead to malabsorption. In other words, we're not absorbing the nutrients that we need to be absorbing, certainly not as well as we would otherwise be able to with a healthy gut. And also it can lead to imbalance or dysbiosis. Now let's think about if your child is not absorbing nutrients as their bodies were intended to do, how are things going to work? Like brain function, like how are they going to behave? What are behaviors going to be like if they're not absorbing the nutrients they need? What is sleep going to be like? What is physical activity and their ability to be active going to be like? Especially though, I like to focus on brain function with this because that's a lot of where our kids have problems, right? Is with the functions of their brain, their ability to have control of their impulses. So thinking and impulse control and memory and neurotransmitters even, so sleep and mood. So there's a host of symptoms that can be shown due to simply inflammation in the gut. That's where it can start, inflammation in the gut, which can be caused, for one, by these gluteomorphins. This is the reason why I so often encourage my patients to at least try a gluten-free and probably a casein-free diet for at least 6 weeks. It does take some time to get these gluteomorphins, the gluten, the gliadin, out of the system. So a trial period of simply a few days or a week just is not going to give us the information we need to tell us, is our child reacting to gluten or are they not? So what do we do about this problem? Well, this is one area where it's really simple. stop feeding our kids gluten, right? Now, we have to be aware that there are sources of gluten that are sort of hidden. Like, for instance, a lot of times adhesives, so for example, on envelopes, contain a little bit of gluten. So if your child is licking envelopes, or heaven forbid they're eating the glue at school, or accidentally ingest that, they may be getting exposed. And even a small amount of an exposure, depending on the child, can cause big problems. So that was a very simple, very basic explanation of gluteomorphins. I hope this was informative to you. One of the reasons that I wanted to cover this topic, which seems to be a little bit, complex and biological and just for us professionals to know about, is I know I understand things better and am moved to make certain good decisions if I know the why behind it. And so hopefully me providing you with this why can help you understand why it might be important for you to at least try a gluten-free and probably dairy-free diet with your child for a period, a long-ish, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, sometimes 3 months period of time. Understanding can lead to that motivation. I always encourage you, stay curious, do what we can to help our children, and remember, be gentle with yourself. You're doing a great job.